half double crochet, also referred to as the HDC, sits right between the single crochet and the double crochet. You can see that with the single crochet you have a bit of a tight fabric, very tight stitches, and with the double crochet it's a bit loose. You can see the gaps right there as you stretch them, but HDC sits somewhere right in the middle of those two stitches, not too loose, not too tight, but creates a beautifully textured fabric that is perfect for blankets, for garments, and for your everyday crochet projects. And that's what we'll be learning today. And if you're brand new to crochet, I always recommend watching the video once all the way through first, then coming back with your hook and yarn to crochet along with me. I'll not only walk you through how to HDC, but also 5 half double crochet mistakes people make, how to fix them, and what your stitches should actually look like. Alright, for this tutorial I'll be using medium weight yarn and a 5mm crochet hook, which is basically all you'll need to learn the stitch. You'll also need your darning needle, because at the end of the video I'll show you how to darn in those ends so that they're nice and tucked in, and a pair of scissors. And it's always nice to have a pair of stitch markers handy, especially if you're brand new to crochet, because these two can help you mark your stitches so that you don't miss any stitches or add any extra stitches as you're going along. Using slightly thicker yarn helps you see your stitches clearly, and also if it's light colored so that you're not missing on stitches and you can actually see what you're working on. It's wonderful, which makes learning so much easier. So if you can, get worsted weight yarn or DK weight yarn in a light, bright color. So let's begin. Let us begin. So we are going to start with a slip knot, and I always recommend leaving a 6-inch tail before beginning your work that you're going to later use to darn into your work, so that it doesn't come and darn and actually has a nice finishing to it. You don't need a tape measure with you. The distance from your wrist all the way up to the tip of your middle finger is around 6 to 7 inches. So you can just use this as a measurement before you get good at eyeballing it, or you can just use your tape measure if you prefer. So we're just going to make our slip knot like so, working yarn on top of the tail end of your yarn and pull it through. And you're going to use the working yarn to adjust your slip knot to the right size and insert your hook there. I like to wrap my yarn around my index finger to help with my tension, but hold your yarn however way feels comfortable for you. So first you're going to start with a chain of 15. Just make sure that you've really tightened that slip knot so that you don't mistake it for a chain as you continue with your work. We begin with a chain of 15. Try not to make your chains too tight. Keeping them relaxed will make your next row so much easier. If your hook struggles to go through the loop as you're making the chain, it's usually an indication that your chain is going to be too tight. So the fix is to relax the grip on your hook and also the tension that you have on the yarn. And if you're still struggling, you can try going up a hook size for making your chains and then going down a hook size for working the rest of your project, just as you continue to practice until you have a grip on how to actually hold your hook and your yarn in a way that doesn't give you too tight chains as you crochet. You must confirm that you've actually chained the number of chains that is needed for whatever piece you're working. So you'll need to count them. And remember the slip knot, you need to tighten it so that you don't confuse it with a chain. So this is the first chain. We count our chains from the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And the loop on our hook, this one right here, never counts as a stitch. It remains the loop on our hook. So this is the first chain from our hook, the second chain from our hook, the third chain from our hook, and so on, all the way to the bottom. We are going to start in the second chain from our hook right here. We are going to yarn over as so, insert our hook right into that chain, yarn over, pull through, and you'll see that now you have 3 loops on your hook. We are going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook, and there you have your first half double crochet stitch. Let's do that again slowly. You're going to yarn over, go into the chain right there, and I like going into my chain so that I can see 2 loops right at the top over there as you're going through your chain, because working in this way will make your work more firm. So yarn over, pull through that chain so that you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. If your edges look uneven right from the beginning, you've started at the wrong chain. You've either gone too far down or you haven't left enough room at the beginning. So always count carefully and start in the correct chain. Not every HDC pattern is going to start from the second chain from the hook. Some will start from the third. So you need to make sure you're following the pattern, or also, as you get enough practice, starting in the chain that works best for you, whether the second or the third chain from the hook. As I've said, when I'm inserting my hook into the chain, I don't go through just one piece like that. I like my first row to be a bit firm and structured, so I go through this hole right there. You can see with the chain you have a hole on top and a hole at the bottom. I like to go through the one at the bottom so that I have 2 loops on my hook like that when I turn the chain. This gives you a much more structured foundation row as you're crocheting. Always start your half double crochet with a yarn over before you insert your hook into the next stitch or chain as so. Yarn over, pull through the yarn, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 of them. And if you accidentally skip this step of yarning over, you'll make a single crochet instead. To yarn over first before inserting your hook into the next chain or the next stitch. Now we'll continue with the same rhythm across the row. And that is how we work the half double crochet to the end of the row. We're going to want to turn it and work across for the next row. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1 and simply flip your work over like that. The chain 1 right here doesn't count as a stitch. It simply helps you to bring your work up to the next row. It simply gives your stitches some height. The first row is always worked in chains, but the second row forward is worked in the stitches. Now you need to figure out where to actually insert your hook for the second row and for the rows following. That's where these V's come in. You're going to be inserting your work just under those V's. And if you look at it from the side, you can see that they have these big gaps right here. That's where you'll be inserting your hook, under the V's through the gap that you can see right there. If your fabric looks twisted, uneven or inconsistent, this is often the reason you insert your hook in the wrong part of the stitch. And this is the wonderful thing about HDCs as well. It forms a really visible place where you can insert your hook. So it's a really good practice stitch. Turning your piece in the same way and chaining the same number of chains as you turn your work will help you maintain straight edges and a very neat solid fabric. So consistency is the name of the game. This is our first stitch. What was last in the previous row becomes the first one in the next row, right there, into that pronounced hole under the V right there. So yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch. You can see again, just like in the foundation row, where we've inserted our hook actually has 2 loops right there. So we yarn over and pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 of them. That's our first HDC of the row. And as you go along, as I've said, you don't want to make the mistake of inserting your hook in the wrong place, and that could also include going into a stitch that you've already worked into. Once you work into a stitch, you go into the next one on your hook, and you're going to repeat the pattern all the way across, making sure that you always insert under both loops into that pronounced hole that you're seeing right there, so that you get a nice, clean, balanced fabric as you continue along. Throughout this tutorial, you can slow down the speed of the video as you go along, and I've also put in timestamps in the description and in the comments below so that you can jump to the section or repeat the section that's giving you most trouble. Now let's talk about this last stitch right here. There's actually one more stitch right here. As you can see, that V is still hanging about there. If you skip it, your project will slowly shrink up as you continue and turn into a triangle. Always remember that last stitch right over there. So you need to yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all three. And if you are struggling to identify where your stitches are, I always recommend at the end of each row to count your stitches. So as we began our row, we had 14. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have a total of 14 stitches because remember, as we began, we chained 15 but skipped one stitch so that we started in the second chain from our hook. That gave us a total of 14 stitches in the first row and 14 stitches in the second, and the stitch count will stay consistent throughout your piece. It's going to be 14 stitches till the end. If you're having trouble, especially marking where you begin your stitches or where to end them, I always recommend using stitch markers. You can place them right at the beginning of your stitches right there. This is our first stitch that we made, you can see, and this is the last stitch that you made. You can place them right there to help guide you where the beginning and where the end is, especially as you turn to work the next row. You can see it marks it really well so that you know the last stitch you need to work is here and not there or not there. This one also helps you know where to insert your hook into the first stitch. So if you're consistently having trouble, make use of your stitch markers, and you don't need to have one like this. You can also use a contrasting piece of yarn as your stitch markers or safety pins as well. Just anything you have handy that can mark the stitch and not fall off can be used as a stitch marker. Again, remember, as you want to work your next row, you chain one and you turn your piece like that. And when you're ready to finish off your work, you're simply going to take your scissors, cut the yarn, and you want to make sure that the yarn that you have cut is actually really long, about 6 to 7 inches, just as we began in the beginning. And you're going to chain one and pull that yarn right out and tighten it like that. That's how you finish off your work. There we have a nice HDC piece of fabric right there. Lovely. You can see the edges are straight, and as I said, to maintain the straight edge, you're going to need to chain and turn consistently in the same direction. So next, I'm going to teach you how to weave in this lovely piece that you're seeing right here. So you're going to take your darning needle and thread that yarn right through and go to the back piece of your work, the back side of your piece. And you're going to try and insert your hook through the stitches like that, in between the stitches, so that as much as you can see the needle, it's not quite so visible on the right side of your piece. So you just need to go through a couple of stitches like that and pull through. You need to tighten it, but not so much that it gives you a misshapen edge right here. So you can just turn your work and confirm that everything is neat and tidy. After you have inserted it through a number of stitches in one direction, you are going to skip a piece right there and go back into the opposite direction like that. and again pull through your yarn, and you want to make sure that you're not actually making your fabric misshapen as you weave in that end. So next you do it a third time in the opposite direction of where we were. Just again make sure that you can't see your needle through the right side of your work, and pull through, and there you have it. You can just take your scissors and snip off that excess yarn, but please be careful as you're snipping it off so that you don't cut your piece and undo all your hard work. And there you have it. And if you're continuing with the series, I'll see you in the next video where we build up on this even more.